Good morning, gentlemen. Today I am going to talk to you about an entirely different topic. मैं आपके पास एक टॉपिक से बात करूंगा which is not really connected with Asia. I'm going to talk about South America. And South America में एक hot spot that is Venezuela and Guyana. Now, you must be wondering why I should talk about Guyana and Venezuela. Well, the reason is simple. Guyana was a British colony and it is the only English speaking country in South America. That's number one. Number two, the population there is almost 45 to 46% ethnic Indians. They were indentured labor who were brought in from Bihar and UP by the British during the days of the British Empire and settled there to work on the sugar plantations. And they have lived there and they have now become part and parcel of that land. So 80% of them are Hindus, maybe 85%, about 15% are Muslims. So they are enforced in Guyana, and India has got very strong ethnic ties with Guyana. Venezuela is important because it is one of the biggest oil producers in the world. There's no doubt about it. And it is headed by by a leader called Madura, who is basically a Marxist. And I don't know whether he's good or bad, but the fact is, Venezuela has got an inflation rate of almost 300%. And there was a time when it was almost 3000% earlier. So you can well imagine that despite Venezuela being one of the richest countries as far as oil products is concerned, with runaway inflation, there is total chaos there. And the last election was supposed to have been suspect, and the Americans sanctioned Venezuela because of that, because Maduro is supposed to have stolen the election from his rival. Gentlemen, so there is a very peculiar situation going on in that region, and India has good relations with Maduro, that's number one. Number two, his predecessor was Hugo Chavez, and he was also a close friend of India. In fact, he had come to India, addressed the Indian students at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and the leftists were mighty pleased with him. They thought that if such a man could come to India and take over, it would be a wonderful thing. But he died, and Maduro, his successor, has taken over. He's still got good relations with India, and ONGC has invested a lot of money in the oil fields in Venezuela. And now India is importing oil from Venezuela as well, because India is a very big, large country, and we can't confine ourselves to oil only from, say, from Russia or the Arab world, and we need more oil, so we have diversified, and now we're getting oil from Venezuela also. So, gentlemen, there is a lot of tension in that region. That is the thing. Indians are involved because British Guyana, as I've told you, is an Indian dominated country. The ethnic people there are all Indians by and large, who trace their roots to Bihar and in other parts of India. A few Tamils are also there. But then they have a very small population, just about 8 to 9 lakhs, which is nothing. And it's a very big area. And if you look at the map of Venezuela, you'll find there's the river flowing through, and the left side is an area which is totally barren in the sense as far as population is concerned, but it is having some of the richest rainforests in the world. And the entire population, about 82 to 83%, is concentrated along the coastal region where Georgetown is the capital. Guyana, as you all know, has also got cricketing ties with India. It's a member of the West Indies Cricket Board, which has a number of players from Guyana. And over history, if you remember, some of the famous names from Guyana were Rohan Kanhai, then Kalicharan, Clive Lloyd, Carl Hooper. There's so many of them. They were all from Guyana, and they made a name for themselves. Kanhai, of course, as you all know, was one of the great batsmen. Actually, his name was Roshan Kanhaiya Lal, and he changed it to Rohan Kanhai. Anyway, let's just digress. The point is, India has strong ties with Guyana, which is bordered on one side by Venezuela, on the other side by Suriname, which was a Dutch colony, and on the southern side there is Brazil. And as I've already told you, it is the only English-speaking country in that region. But now tension is flaring up. I'll tell you why. Guyana has discovered that they have plenty of oil in the offshore region. And Venezuela also has plenty of oil, as it is already prospected, and they are reaping the benefits, though it's not going to the people because of mismanagement by Maduro. Now the next election is coming soon, and Maduro, of course, the Americans claim, stole the last election, so he's got to get himself elected again. He needs a rallying point. So he decided that I must show myself to be a nationalist, and as a nationalist I must galvanize the people. And how is he going to do it? He says, we are going to annex the eastern region of Guyana, which is now going to be the oil-rich region, and incorporate it as part of Venezuela. He held a referendum, and he claims 95% of the Venezuelan population agreed with him, and they decided that this area of British Guyana should be annexed. Now, how are you going to annex it? You can only annex it by military force. There's no other way. And Guyana's got a very, very small army, just about 10,000 persons. And obviously, they will not be able to stand against the Venezuelans. And that is where the Americans have come in. They have had an interest in Guyana. They're not going to let Guyana collapse. India, of course, very far away. We don't have the military capability or the will to do anything in that region. So India would like the peace to be there, but the Americans have got the military might, and they recently carried out an exercise with the Guyanese army. All that is very well, but what is the claim of Venezuela? Venezuela claims that the present border was enforced by the British, Russians, and the Americans in 1899, because at that time Venezuela was very weak. And this entire area, which was historically part of Venezuela, was handed over to the British as a colony. They say we don't recognize that 1899 agreement, and they recognize a 1966 agreement, that is the time when Guyana got its independence from Britain. They say in that agreement that this problem is accepted but will be solved by peaceful means. So Guyana says this problem is there and it must be sorted out. Just to give you an idea, there was a great revolutionary called Simon Bolivar, and he is a great person and greatly admired by the Indian leftists. He was the man who founded the Venezuelan state. Gentlemen, this is just by passing, but the situation is very tense now, because the president now, that is Maduro, has to go for re-election, and he needs a point, because economically Venezuela is almost bankrupt, with an inflation rate of almost 200-300%, which is a little better than what it was about a year back, when the inflation ran into thousands and people had to take, wheelbarrows full of currency to go and buy something. The currency had become worthless. That was because of the American sanctions. And the American sanctions were very telling on Venezuela. But now the Americans slightly relaxed the sanctions because they realized that you can't sanction everybody. They had sanctioned Iran, they had sanctioned Russia, so you can't keep on sanctioning everybody. So net result is there seems to be a slight relaxation, and the Indians have jumped in and started importing oil from Venezuela. At the same time, the Indians are prospecting in the oil fields of Venezuela. Now, as far as Guyana is concerned, it's a rich country. I'll give you an idea that the per capita income of a Guyanese is almost 6 to 7 times or even 8 times more than an Indian. But that's because of a small population and it's very rich. And if this oil comes in, what is going to happen? The economy is going to shoot up. But they have a paucity of population, and almost 80% of the entire area is entirely uninhabited or with a very low population. And this is the area which is being looked at by Venezuela to capture, to annex. Now, I don't know whether they're going to succeed or no. It's not going to be easy, though, as you can expect, the Venezuelans are great friends of Russia, and Maduro is a friend of Putin and, by corollary, China. But Russia and China do not have the military might to intervene in such a distant place. Neither they have the capability, and it is the Americans who call the shots there. They are in a big way in the Caribbean. And if they decide that they're going to come on the side of Guyana, I don't think Venezuela will be able to annex that region. But it will create tension, and that is what actually Maduro wants, because once that is there, he will be able to stoke the flames of nationalism and then become president again. So, gentlemen, this is about this more remote region. I haven't ever been there, and believe me, I have a great wish to visit British Guyana because there's so many Indians there, and maybe even Venezuela. And more so, I want to see how the only English-speaking country rather, in South America is able to carry on with such a high per capita income. But the situation is there, the war clouds are hanging over, and India would like to have peace because India has got roots, very close roots with the Guyanese, and also India has friendly relations with Venezuela. But the Americans go about in a different way, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Whether Maduro is going to win the election, I think he's going to win it again because what happens, nothing else happens. Like Putin keeps on winning, Maduro will also keep on winning. So, gentlemen, I think I've given you a brief idea about a distant part of South America which has a close association with India. I hope you like my video. Please share it with your friends and come back for more. I hope so. And goodbye and God bless.